gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here.
Log in to KofiPaisatv.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisat Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisat Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisat Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harek Shun Kalfunny, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisat, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harek Shun Kalfunny, As I Learn, We All Learn by Kofi Paisat. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisatv.com.
ETM Hotel, Rennie Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Masu Warrior Clan YouTube channel. It's me, it's my time, but as you can see, I have the I don't know what that was he was just doing. It kind of threw me off guard. But brother Kofi on the panel, you know what I'm saying? He trying to look active. You know, it's a big week this week, Kofi. It's September the 19th. You're talking 5 days a book come out. Do you have the book by any chance?
Yeah, I have it, man.
Do you want to let the people see your book and what it looked like?
Yeah, right here. It's right here. Spirit Masters. Yeah. Nice book. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the books are here.
I got a snack.
They are eligible for release and sale on the 24th. Please, go to Same Tree Different Branch. Purchase your copy so we can get it shipped out to you. Look forward to our online release party, which will be on the 24th. We have a panel of people that will join us, Brother Ung, Brother Ben, M. Cool. Who else?
Sorry, Hotel.
Oh, yeah, how the hell I forget that. Sorry, Hotel. And then, of course, it'll be the team or members of the team that'll be available.
And Kevin T will be hosting.
Kevin, yeah, and it'll be hosted by yours truly. Chill, MC Chill Hurd, fresh out of Cleveland. And we don't know if we're going to get some bars from him, but we're going to get something.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I know a lot of people live right now, so I really don't expect a lot of people to kind of come in because, you know, you got Brother Smash, currently him and Garfield going back and forth. He playing Hebrew and Garfield being the Hebrew killer. And I think the set shoe just went live, but as well, talking about a topic that they talked about for 24 hours on the Real Black Atheist channel.
25
25 and a half hours.
That's crazy.
So for the people that are in that will catch the replay, please, you know, like the show, share the show. I know it's been a while since the Mossy has been live, and so notifications probably rolled in slow. But I do want to go ahead and give credence and homage to everybody that's in the chat. You have Sister Nunu, you have Sister Bonita, you got Pure Black, you got Enigma 9x9. Peace, bro. I always see you show up and pay some respect on Science with Sean channel. You got Sutek. I don't even know why he in the chat. And you know what I'm saying? You got other people that are coming in. Marlon is just hopping in. Sutek said Bibleology. You got, you know, a few more other people that just might not even say anything, but we know that you are present. So again, before we get started, man, please like the show, share the show. We're gonna get into some West African culture. You've been getting beat upside the head with Kemet for 30 hours, and the set you about to give you another 2 to 3 hours. Some more Kemet, the aftermath. You even had the SAR go in. So we got about 30 plus hours of who are the people in Kemet. But it wasn't hashed out right. So therefore there's still unanswered questions that tend to pose itself during the actual 25-hour live stream. And yeah, you streaming for 25 hours, YouTube won't even let your video stay locked and loaded. We got brother Robert Rand in the building. Peace to you, bro. Again, you know, like the show, share the show, get all of this into them Facebook groups, the Hebrews, the African groups. You know what I'm saying? This is West Africa. People say, everybody talk about is Kemet. People do this, they do that, but when it's time to get on West Africa, you know, where y'all at? You know what I'm saying? I understand that y'all like beating up the Bible. You know, I know y'all like doing other things. Kofi came on here to show out his new graphics. So go ahead, Kofi. Get into what you got on the screen.
Nah, man, you know, I just, you know, anytime we go live, I just want to keep reiterating New Independent African Academy.
Why you want to do that? Tell the people why you want to do that.
Because I'm trying to separate from that other community. I'm trying to.
We're an academy. We're not a community, though.
It's an academy. It is a community coming together to formulate an academy. Academy
Okay.
of that has structure, that has mandates, that the bar is set real high, wants to produce exceptional men and women, or produce intellectuals, and you know, a place that has codes and conducts, a safe place where you can come and learn and not get cussed out or not get bashed, or your family not get your family not get mentioned and they ain't even a part of whatever else is going on. A place where 2 or 3 men or women can have a civilized conversation and not respect any other, man. So the New Independent African Academy, man, is where it's at, man.
All right. So anything else you wanna kind of get into?
Well, I choose, go get them shirts, man. Them new Independent African Academy shirts, man. If y'all ain't got to, go to Mboka Family Connect Apparel and get you a shirt, man. New Independent African Academy. If you rocking with the new community, the campaign, man, which is high standards, producing authors, producing writers, producing exceptional men and women, producing intellectuals, producing those with good character, a place with structure, or a safe place and for sound and accurate information, man, go get you one of these shirts, man.
All right. You got what about your publication? What's your latest?
But yeah. And I'm high right now. When I mean I'm high, I really don't care about. I do care, but what I most care about is what my constituents, if I'm saying the word right, or my the people that I call my family, my brothers, what they think. So, I know Ben, he actually is a practitioner of one of the traditions in Nigeria, a Sheshe, and he's initiate. And he gave me some great feedback on my book. But I mean, as well as other people gave me some good feedback on the book. So if you ain't got the book, go to Same Tree Different Branch Publishing. That is our publishing company, Same Tree Different Branch Publishing, and get. Matter of fact, I got a copy right here, and get my new text, Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo. Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo. For those that may not know what Kimoyo is, I explain what Kimoyo is, the word ki and moyo means. I break it down, and why I use the word Kimoyo, and I then use the word African traditional religion or the word African spirituality. I have an issue with those two words. We're trying to get away from that, and we trying to push Kimoyo to the forefront because it actually describes our ancestral tradition better than African traditional religion, which has nothing to. Actually, we have no agency over that word because we didn't create that word. And I explain that. I even talk about it with the word African spirituality. But go get that text. That's for the neophytes, people that want to know about the different elements within Kimoyo, or if you still call it African traditional religion. Each chapter has a different element, so I explain it thoroughly. So go to Same Tree Different Branch Publishing and get that publication. And I also will be dropping the expanded version on Kwanzaa. I'll be dropping Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo expanded, the changing the font. I'm adding pictures. And I'm adding 4 new chapters. So it'd be, instead of 10 chapters, it'd be 14 chapters in the expanded version book, man. But yeah, go to Same Tree Different Branch Publishing to get that publication as well.
All right. So what up, Kenan? What's good, brother? I see you popped in. What up? Everything is everything. I see a few people sliding in, sliding out, whatnot. Please, again, y'all like the show, share the show. Tell a friend, tell a friend. I mean, this West African history we finna get into. This thing should be, we should have we should have a lot of 100 people at least talking about this. What up, Mark? What's good? I mean, everybody been riding the whole, the ethnicity, the Remech wave the whole weekend. You know what I'm saying? And it rolled over. It started Friday, and as you can see, there's a whole nother show in regard to that. And rightfully so, I guess, to wrap up the weekend pretty much regarding that topic. And let's try to get it in, man, and do this thing the Mazawari clan way. So before I do get started, I want to give a shout out to Brother Kofi. Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo. I want to give a shout out to Muntu Wa and Zambi, Portraits of Human as God's Special Creation. This book is written by a Dr. McKinge, edited by Saw Imhotep, and you know, Asar's Mandu and Dwella publishing company. You know what I'm saying? I see Kofi got his book over there. You know what I mean?
I was a little hot too, bro, with you. I'm like, I had to email Asar. I'm like, hell, I ordered my book way before Sean ordered his book, and then you go to Sean, you go to post your book on Facebook to much you got it. And I'm like, God damn, what my book?
Yeah. I don't play no games though. You see what I'm saying? They don't play no games by my mail, you know. They give me what I need. When I say I need something, and they know when I order it, you know, they give me what I need because they know I'm the real, you know what I'm saying? So
that's so, man.
they're gonna make sure they take care of my business.
I said, let me eat,
they're gonna make sure they take care of y'all.
See what's going on, man.
I can't apologize for how they treat you. You know what I mean? I can't apologize for that. Yeah, I haven't got into this book, but I think I may allow this book to skip my book line. I don't know.
Yeah, I gotta check it out.
I got some work to do. You know, all my publications for this year is done unless Panther slip up and talk about he ready to do the journal. But I doubt that because he working on his individual book.
Yeah.
So all my book writing is done. I'm just waiting on Brother Kofi with his other edit, and we'll come out with a date for that piece of work. And then I got the children's book that I've been sitting on all year that been done. I'm gonna take a second look at that and see if I even want to get into that and deal with that from that perspective.
What is it? Is it a part 2 or what is it?
It's not really. It could be a part 2, but the route that I actually take is a little bit, you know, educational from a different perspective. You know, it's more mathematical. It's testing the kids' mathematical skills in this one, but introducing them to introducing them to African culture, history, and traditions, and using certain elements that's all over the continent to highlight some specifics. And so I wanted to get into that a little bit. And I need to play around with it and put my eyes back on it because it's been a while, and just to see if I want to do that. So I know we've been talking for about almost 20 minutes. Just kind of let people get into what's going on. So I want to introduce everybody to the Gunnu people, and that's spelled Gunnu. Before I get going, we will take a look. I didn't put a presentation together for this. I pretty much wanted to have a conversation, but I do have some stuff in the description I will be pulling from. I even left y'all 2 PDFs that you could pull from to actually get you some insight on what I'm talking about. So you find some information that you find, that's useful for you. We always want to do that. Again, this is me introducing you back to West Africa. It's been a whole lot of everything else, and it seemed like the Mossy really the only ones throwing up West Africa. Not Gunnu the rapper. You know what I'm saying? Not Gunnu the rapper. Gunnu. No, I might be pronouncing it incorrectly, but I'm saying it with the southern drawl, but the Gunnu. Or I'm saying Gunnu, but yeah, them people. So I'm gonna share my screen.
Sean,
what?
You ain't even did nothing yet, man. And you now it's a thumb down. You think it's the same one from the other?
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. Like the show, share the show, thumb it up, thumb it down. It don't even matter. You know what I mean?
It don't.
Yeah, it might be Sutek friend that might be thumbing it down, because he pissed somebody off, and hey, whatever. So again, let's go. Let's get into it. I don't want to hold people up all night. I want to start here dealing with Africa's 101 last tribes, and this is the Nupe, and more specifically, we're going to get into the Gunnu. And I just wanted to bring you to this website right here about 101 last tribes, because I didn't want to highlight everything. I didn't want to like put a whole presentation together about this because there's some other stuff that I'm working on that I am going to present against. But this is it. This is tonight. This is Massa Warrior Clan time. This is West African time, and we're gonna bang it out like this. So the Nupe, they are located in where? Nigeria. Everybody, Nigeria, okay? Now, the Nupe people traditionally called the Tapa. As you can see on the map, you'll see like Rabah and Nabida, right? You see those two things. They're neighbors of who? The Yoruba. They're really close to, or yeah, they right along that little Niger, the way the Niger been, you find a lot of people are holding it down like that. But just so you generally can see on the map, you know, we in this area right here. Okay, now they're Niger ethnic, they're a Volta Niger ethnic identity and historic nation native to the middle belt of Nigeria. So this is key. It's an important minority in the Kwawa state and present in Congo state as well. They got about 4.5 million people. The Etsu Nupe, which is the beta, is not pure Nupe. And then, you know, get into all of that. So I want to talk, when I talk about Africa, I always talk about it from an anthropological perspective. So the traditions, the art, the culture, you know, and the people mean something to me. The Nupe people have various traditions. Many practices have changed as a result of the movement started by the Usman bin Fodio jihad of the 19th century. And now that's significant that I would sit here and talk about the Nupe and then bring forward to you the jihad by Usman bin Fodio. Now, if you get into the history of this dude, tyrant, but his whole thing was to spread what? Islam. They were in a conversion state. They were selling people. They were into all kind of things by the 19th century, but I don't want to talk more about that. I also have a whole library list of other information regarding the Nupe that I could have brought out, but I'm telling y'all right now, I'm specifically going to deal with the Gunnu people now, and we're going to take a look at the JSTAR article as well. So many Nupe people often have scarification on their faces, similar to the Yoruba. You're going to see other similarities to Yoruba within the Gunnu specifically, but the Nupe. Some identify their prestige and their family, which belong as well as for their protection. So I'm going to run that back for you again. Their scarification talks about their prestige, talks about their family, right? Talks about protection. And then they also adorn jewelry. But these traditions are dying out in certain areas because of colonization, because of the influence of Islam and Christianity in those areas. Not Judaism, Islam and Christianity in those areas. So their art is often abstract, of course, just like other African, West African art. And they're well known for their wooden stools and patterns carved on the surface. All right, so Beta is the capital of Nupe land. All right, they speak several languages. Okay, you got some of them speaking Niger Congo. I mean, Niger Congo language, but you have a lot of them speaking like the Ibira, the Jibari. You may have heard me say this before in the West African presentation, and the Kakanda. Now, there's a remarkable difference in the language tone of the Nupe people that distinguish individuals' locations in the Zunao distribution of the Nupe people. For instance, Nupe people around Lafiagi or Patagi or Basita have a distinct tone from others. So this is another way that vernacular, like Kofi is in I don't even want to joke on him, but Kofi is way somewhere where we don't even know where he at. He don't even where the internet real slow, right? Because that's the only speed that they got out there in the country. So, but you hear the way Kofi speak, and then you hear my vernacular, and we both Southern, but my Southernness may sound more Northern than Kofi's countryness. You see what I'm saying? So that draw is different. It's similar like that in certain parts of not really certain parts, but all over the continent of Africa. Now, It's most importantly to note that the sharing of practices based on the common principles of Islam, that is the predominant religion in the area for the Nupe, is subsequent. And of course, this is subsequent due to jihadist movements and things of that nature. So, you know, you'll also see some, like I said earlier, some similarities, right? Some likenesses regarding their neighbors, the Yoruba. Let's get into the history a little bit. So the Nupe kingdom was founded by Tusadi. His alias is Edigi, who was born in 1465. What else was taking place around 1465? We have the emergence of the Portuguese in West Africa, and you have West Africans in certain areas along the coastal lines, departing areas and going and hiding in the bush and so forth. However, 1465 was the rise of the Nupe. The early Nupe history recognized by Tusadi and his fundamental contributions to the building of the Nupe dynasty. Now, the Tusadi was the son of the Nupe mother and the Ingala father, who was raised at the Ingala court in the Ida, but later returned to his natal home in Nupe land. Now, he returned with magical and symbolic regalia bequeathed to him by his father, the Igala king. On his return to his maternal home, he gained control over the vast area of Nupe land and extended his kingdom by conquering the lands of neighbors as well. The people conquered were the Yoruba in the south and the Kambari and the Kumuku in the north. He founded Nupiko as his administrative capital, and from there he asserted his political might and authority in the entire Nupe kingdom. Now, Tusadi passed away in 1591 in one of his military expansionist missions north of Nupe Kingdom. Hence, Nadal refers to Tusadi as the culture hero and mythical founder of Nupe Kingdom. All right, so that's just a little bit about Nupe and their structure. So we'll get into kinship. Now, as you can see here, it is good to understand the evolution of leadership structure in Bida, the undisputed headquarters of Nupe people in Nigeria. The traditional inhabitants of the ancient city, Benin Bida, were known as Bini. Now, these were very powerful people with mystical powers now overtaken by Islam. The original house of Etsu, Isa, was the place of leadership where the Etsu came from before the conquest of Nupe land by the Fulani rulers, Goyizi, in 1804, who displaced the Bida Nupe leadership early in the 19th century. The Fulani leader, Malin Dindo or Menko, who became the new leader of this empire, started it all. His son, Usman Zaki, became the first Etsu Nupe in 1832. Now, there are 3 houses in Bida where Etsu Nupe rotates. This is key. Usman Zaki's house, Masabi's house, and Numari Majiji house. Since the emergence of the first Etsu Nupe of Fulani descended in 1832, there have been 13 Etsus. Now, Etsu Nupe appoints credible people to several traditional title offices. These title holders are the Etsu Nupe loyalists, who advise him from time to time, while several district heads are appointed to head several districts in Bida Emirate. The same is practiced in other Emirates. Now, I don't want to get too far to the economy or the settlements, so I'm going to switch it on over and we're going to deal with the Nupe, specifically the Gunnu people. That is why we're here. And then we're going to draw some distinctions with them among the Yoruba as well. So walk with me. Now, this is a nice journal. It is in the description. I do have it on the screen. I think Kofi might have dipped out. You still here, Kofi?
Yeah, I'm still in here.
Okay. All right. So you can see that on the screen, right?
Yep, you good. I can see it. It's full screen.
Cool. All right. So we on the screen here. We live and we in living color. All right. Now, the Gunnu, a fertility cult of the Nupe in northern Nigeria. Now, this is by Nadal, Dr. Nadal, which is cool. Now, the Nupe, a tribe of roughly 500,000 souls, live right in the heart of Nigeria at the confluence of Niger and the Kuduni River. All right, and what's so-called today in official maps of Nupe and the Niger province. When I showed you the map earlier and I showed you around the Niger, right? You saw them at Beta, which was one of their capitals. You saw it lining the Niger River. Now, as described elsewhere in the Nupe political and social organizations, partly the more general aspect of their culture, and may be allowed to refer in this article to general data given there, we are concerned here chiefly with the religious system of the Nupe, or more exactly with one aspect of their religious system, the idea of fertility as it is reflected in one special code called the Nupe, called in Nupe, the Gunnu. Now, among the religious cults of the Nupe land, a comparative large number of practices by sections of the population only. They are limited to village groups or to that section of the tribe which is perhaps best termed sub-tribe. Only a few cults, rituals, and beliefs are common to the tribe as a whole and form a real and universal characteristic of Nupe culture. You're hearing this word a whole lot, culture, because it's synonymous with the people. Now, culture doesn't exist without people. We know this, right? The traditions is enriched. It's like it's football season right now. So it's like the University of Alabama, his prestige Power 5 football football program who has a rich history and winning and things of that nature, right? So it's embedded in the culture at Alabama to be winners, to get the best recruits and be elite and so on and so forth. So this is culturally intact, basically, is all I'm saying when I'm drawing the distinctions between a football program and an identity of a people and the way that they approach their lives in one form or another. Now, among these latter cults and beliefs, one of the most important is the cult of Gunnu. But the religious cults of the Nupe may suggest yet another criterion of classification. Now, there are cults and rituals in Nupe which are invoked and enacted only when, roughly speaking, the need arises. And there are other cults which have their fixed place in the native calendar and which have been performed and enacted regularly from an immemorial and at the particular time of the year. Now, this connection between the ritual and the year cycle is very rarely without deeper meaning. As a rule, these rituals only express in their way the significance which this special date has for the life of a native. Now, the calendar of the Nupe is essentially a naturalistic calendar, though based on astronomical facts, moons, months. It means to the native primarily a framework for those climatic phenomena and seasonal changes which are vital for people living in so close to a dependence on environmental conditions. You got dry seasons, you got rainy seasons, you got cold and hot seasons. The beginning and end of this year's cycle and the names of the subdivisions are derived from these phenomena. And it is into this framework of events and of human activities linked with events that the fixed annual religious cults are fitted. There are, in full sense of the word, seasonal cults. Now, even where they are concerned with phenomena which reach beyond the conceptual background of seasonal calendars, such as disease, childbearing, general welfare of the community, and the majority of the cases, they still remain visibly connected with the significance of the phase in the year cycle. Now, you heard me mention earlier disease. You've heard of disease pretty lately because we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? We're dealing with the disease called COVID-19, but the virus is called SARS-CoV-2, which causes the disease. The Nupe, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring this out to you right now. The Nupe are known not only as a fertility group, but they are also known for creating epidemics of smallpox. I'm gonna bring it out to you right now. So it was only fitting that I bring the U.S. West Africa and the Nupe, the Gunnu people, specifically to talk about smallpox and its relevance to the Gunnu people. Now let's continue, and I'm gonna get back to that point. I just brought it out too soon. So, but to be fitted into the framework of seasonal events and human activities linked with the events implies something else. Among these human activities are other fixed religious cults as well. The fixed cult does not stand by itself, but it is part of a connected framework of ritual spread over the whole year cycle. Sometimes this framework may be compressed into a short space of time into one close consecutive series of rites, to which applies almost literally that Malawski describes as the essence of systemic magic, namely that there is a consecutive body, okay, of rites. There's a consecutive body of rites, no one in which can be torn out of its sequence and performed by itself. They have to be carried out one after the other in determined order, and the more important of them, at least, can never be omitted. Once the series has been started, what we term here fixed and unfixed rituals actually corresponds to a large extent to Malawski's theoretical distinction of systemic and independent magic and rites. The systemic rites in the area do not, however, overshadow the independent completely, but in a number of importance. But the difference between the two is, in other regards, no less conspicuous. Now, conspicuous, my bad. And the cults are fixed also in more abstract sense. They are not concerned with and are not supposed to cope with special needs, unforeseen happenings, and they cannot claim to procure immediate relief and direct results. They exclude the element of individuality, which characteristics more of an unfixed cult, whose help can be sought by individuals or individual families of their own special troubles. As in themselves, they are part of a parcel of religious and social routine. They work in high sense for the routine of nature and life. We call the Gunnu a religious cult. And without entering too deeply into the theoretical side of the problem, we may say that for the Nupe, the distinction between systemic and independent cults seem to coincide with that fluctuating borderline that separates religion from magic. Now, I cannot attempt here even a superficial description of all the rituals of fixed and unfixed type to constitute the framework of religious system of the Nupe. Now, to illustrate, however, the position of the Gunnu in this framework, a point which will become relevant presently, I attached here in the chart. So we're going to take a look at his, not really going to take a look at his ritualistic chart, but I am going to make it where it's on the screen where you can see it. Now, you heard me mention or talk about disease earlier, and I said smallpox. So it's dated in 1934. It's a celebration of native counting. It's linked with a certain activity. Then you have a name of a ritual, and then it's celebrated for what purpose. So in 1611, the very first one, it says, which is fixed on the end of the 8th month, formerly lasting 7 days, is linked with the activity end of rains, no special activity. The name of the ritual is Mama. That's M-A-M-M-A. Now, it's celebrated for the purpose of, what purpose? Well, especially against smallpox, but also against general evil influences from which the village must be rid before one start harvesting, right? So they do this particular ritual at the end of the rainy season. There's no activity actually involved. It extends itself for at least 7 days, and it's always around the end of the 8th month of each year. I'm not going to read the other ones. I do want to make a reference here. If you haven't read Beautiful Lessons of Kimoyo, then you may be a little lost when we're talking about Kimoyo in a sense, right? So when we talk about the traditions, the customs, the rituals, the naming ceremony, when you talk about rituals, you're talking about naming ceremonies, birthing ceremonies, right? You're talking about transitional ceremonies, becoming an elder or an ancestor. You're talking about your rites of passages. You're talking about what makes African culture, traditions, this oneness, right? We're talking about Simba Simbi, right? If you were in the Congo, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about that which makes things whole.
Hey, Sean. Sean,
Go ahead.
can I read something from page 93 in my book dealing with the rituals?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna break rituals. Rituals. This is chapter 6, rituals and sacrifice. I kind of go a little bit more into all types of rituals, and then I deal with what sacrifice is. But it says rituals. Rituals is a sequence of activities involving gestures, words, actions, or objects performed in an opportunity circumstances. It is in an isolated place and according to a set of sequences. Rituals may be prescribed by traditions of a community. Prayer, music, and dances enhance the effectiveness of the ritual acts. Sacrifices and offering helps to confirm the relationship between the supreme deity, lesser deities, and humanity. Rituals take place during community celebrations and festivals for the purpose of thanksgiving, purifications, and communion. I just wanted to, touch on that, man, exactly what rituals is. And then you said they do rituals during the rainy season. They do a particular ritual during the rainy season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of give insight on what they actually does, sacrifice and take places. You may have drums, where drums gonna take place no matter what you're doing. Rituals take place in sacred places, or in I'm gonna say a sacred place because I talk about that too in the book. Most rituals, and where just rituals take place in these sacred groves. So I just wanted to just hit on that real quick.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Nah, man, I could have went on, but nah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna get away from some of the ritual aspects of things, and I want to move a little bit forward into this particular article. And basically, the first few pages of this is setting up what Kofi is defining, but overall, it is giving you what Kimoyo is. The example of Kimoyo is for the Nupe, specifically the Gunnu, right? Because every aspect of Kofi's book is talking about the things that's right here in the first few pages of the article. And as I told you earlier, I just went ahead and jumped the gun, and I got into specifically the disease emphasis, just because I'm going to draw the connection for you, but I'm actually going to give you their perspective or worldview on certain things. But I do want to get into this one myth here. I just wanted to mention, and it's the myth of the origin of the Gunnu follows what we might term as general, a pattern of the Nupe culture hero mythology, right? Because that's another emphasis that makes up things. You got, what's up, Carl?
Oh, my bad, Brian.
All right, so wherever Nupe traditions deal with the mythical origin of some essential culture fact, it tells a tale which in its outline is always the same. A man, sometimes a woman, coming from a country far off, a mysterious stranger, in fact, brings into Nupe land a special magic, a special sacred implement, or some hitherto unknown knowledge and wisdom. He then transfers this sacred power or new knowledge to the community among which he is living, proving by miraculous signs the sacredness of his mission, and finally disappearing again into limbo. The power of this mythological pattern was strong enough to mold even a definitely historical and comparative recent tradition, namely the traditions of the earliest adventures of Malam Dindo, the Mohammedan Fulani emissary and founder of the present-day Fulani dynasty in Nupe, who came to Nupe land about 1800, died in 1832. This same pattern also shapes the Gunnu myth. Long, long ago, The Nupe would tell you a stranger came to Nupe land and settled in Epwagi, or to use the Hausa name Lamu, a village on the border of Benin and Jabari country. After he had lived there for some time, he became leprous. The people of the village were very kind to the sick man. You see where I'm going? They fed and nursed him, but he died, and according to their customs, the villagers did not bury him, but tied a rope around his feet, dragged the body into the bush to a hill nearby, and left it there. A few days later, hunters from the village happened to visit the hill. They found to their surprise that the body had disappeared, buried, as it seemed, by Soku, God himself. Where the body had lain, there was a patch of pure white sand, such as they had never seen before. They realized then that this man must have possessed specially powerful magic, which could conquer disease and death. Or, as one informant expressed in the modern Mohammedan terminology, that he must have been a wali, holy man. They realized that they unwittingly had done wrong in refusing him the customary burial and funeral ceremony. They planted a tree on his grave and celebrated a big ceremony to appropriate the spirit of the deceased. This ceremony, repeated every year from this day, is said to be the origins of Gunnu. The hill is known all over Nupe as Pati Gunnu, or the Gunnu Hill, and the priest of the annual ceremony who remain living on the hill, as in the Indazo Pati, the hill priest. The sand which covers the grave is said to possess special healing properties, and it is asserted by some that it changes its color every year. Although whenever one collects it, it seems to change back into a pure white sand. Now, the most striking feature in this myth is the part about leprosy. It plays in the legendary events. To understand its importance fully, we realize the position of leprosy in the life of the Nupe. The very name they have for its marks is exceptional position. A leper is called in Nupe Sokonjusi, one who has the disease of God. You keep hearing that word disease, don't you? And leprosy itself, Sokuju, the disease of God. And this terminology does not refer only to the fact that leprosy is a disease against which man is completely helpless, that it is a disease which cuts off your limbs alive with the knife of God. Leprosy is also one of two primordial diseases. Sleeping sickness is the other, which, as the Nupe believe, have been placed by God from the beginning of things in every man and woman. In every man and woman's body, leprosy, the germ of leprosy, exists. Leprosy is, as a potentiality, is in general and natural. But through an unfavorable constellation, these endowments of man's nature are transformed into the virulent, incurable, real disease of God. The leper remains all his life a terrifying reminder of what may become a man, of everybody, if these uncountable influences turn against you. The only case of suicide which my informants could remember not so very long back was the suicide of a man who discovered that he had leprosy. The leper is almost an outcast. When he dies, his corpse is buried in the bush and not like everybody else's inside the village, and special rites of purification have to be performed. Should he be buried inside the village, all water would dry up at once. This terrible, mysterious disease then serves to illustrate what appears to be the essence of the myth: miraculous regeneration and vanquishing of a disease and death. What seems desired by the Soko himself can yet be altered. What bears the stamp of final destiny is yet revoked. The assurance of life imparts itself onto the very soul which embraces the body of the mythical leper. A tree grows from it. It can heal disease and changes its color every year. It becomes a visible sign of the germ growth and life which it embraces. It is then, above all, the internal mysterium of the regeneration of nature and earth, which is expressed into the symbolism of the myth. The earth deprived of its fruit, cut off its limbs alive in the Sokujusi, the leper irrevocably condemned to death and barrenness. is yet miraculously revived every year. The wounds and the scars which man is forced to inflict on her will be made to heal again, and the earth will be strong and fertile as ever. Now, it is tempting to dwell in the symbolic connection between the myth and the cult, but it is difficult to assess its actual significance, that is, as a factor determining actual social behavior. It is particularly difficult today at a time when the myth is known only to a few old men in and out of the way places. As to explain the curious part of the leprosy plagues in the myth, they will all stress the cruel nature of the disease and enumerate all its terrifying aspects. But of actual awareness of its intrinsic connection between the disease of God and the code of fertility, there is little evidence. As far as it exists, it rests in a combination of certain ritual, semi-ritual activities, which constitute more concrete links between myth and ceremony. To begin with, it is the office of Gunnu priest family to bury the leapers of the village. Now, at the beginning of the Gunnu month, the born Gunnu priest, of whom we shall hear more presently, goes to Egwagi, travel by night and avoiding all human habitation on the earth, climbs in the Gunnu hill and sacrifices on the sacred grave. He is also goes to see and possibly to consult the hill priest, who is regarded as the most powerful of all the Gunnu priests, almost as a spiritual head of their order. Now, on his return home, the Gunnu priest brings with him a little of the sacred sand and a few small stones from the Pati Gunnu, which he later distributes among the other Gunnu priests of the country. Sand and stone will be used in various ways. The sand is used, as mentioned already, as medicine. With it, the soothsayers of the village may also divine in Mohammedan fashion the fate which awaits the village in the coming year. This small stones are placed on the sacrifice place of the Gunnu together with the sacrifice food. And when the Gunnu priest opens the Gunnu dance, he places one of the small stones in his mouth. Now, I'm not going to harp too long on the actual myth and where it's going, but in short, it's saying the myth is not much more than a tale of happening which are of no real consequence relating to facts which happen far away among a different group in the country of the origin of the Gunnu. But then the main facts of which the closer connection between the myth and ceremony is based on the pilgrimage to a sacred hill, the cooperation between the Gunnu priest and the people, and the significance only it is on the sub-tribe of the Beni. All right. Now, only here necessary background for such a connection and cooperation exists, namely close political and kinship ties which unite the people of the whole sub-tribe among other sub-tribes of Nupe, where such a unit does not exist, where we have an independent, almost unconnected village groups only. The lack of connection between the myth and ritual reflects the difference in social conditions. All right. Now, I might be speaking over a lot of y'all here, especially in regard to the Nupe, but this specifically is telling you about a tale where disease is prevalent among the people, whether it's leprosy or whether it's smallpox, which I'll get into in just a minute. But the way that they handle these things is by going to a hill and seeking out the priest, who then goes through a particular ritual, which is custom, right? Because in this sacred space or area for them, mythologically, naturally, it's just a belief that they have that they endure that provides them with a way of trying to accomplish something or treat something that they know wreaks havoc among the people. So let me move a little bit forward. Do I want to get to the point of where I'm going to talk smallpox here in just a minute? And I'm going to give you the relevance to this whole reason why we even dealing with the Nupe. Although the Gunnu, you probably never heard of them until now. But they do a lot of communal stuff. They do a lot of dancing, singing. The Nupe are very ritualistic. To be honest, and Kofi, I think you still here, but to be honest, they're very similar to the Daguerre people as far as how ritualistic they are. Now they don't do the fire, water, the drowning or the tree thing or anything like that. They have elements of things that may be similar, but just from a ritual perspective, how many different rituals that they have for different parts of their years and things like that is prevalent there. So you see some heavy connections. So hold on, let me get somewhere first. Where I'm at, page 16. Let me get y'all. Do I want to get y'all to this, or I'm just gonna go right? I'm gonna go to my other source. I ain't even gonna deal with all of that. Let me jump out of this real quick. And all right.
You said they went to the hill?
Yeah, they go to the hill, man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they got a sacred hill. That's what the priest said. Right. So let me stop sharing my screen real quick, and then I'm gonna bring it back. I want to go to Olódùmarè, the God in Yoruba belief, and I'm gonna go to page 100 real quick, and I want to tell y'all something unique here. So remember, I said Yoruba is next to the Nupe, right? The Gunnu is right there along the Niger. So these people are very close to each other. So there's going to be some type of relationship there for the both of them, right? So let me get, am I on 100 yet? Let me give this full context. And then I'm gonna go ahead and shake y'all up real quick. So Kofi, are you familiar with Sòpòná?
No.
In the Yoruba?
No. I ain't.
Okay. So in Yoruba land, the Nupe immigrants are the custodians of the Gunnu cult and are notorious of being capable of starting and spreading an epidemic of smallpox, the source of the Sòpòná. Here, then it appears that we have a link between the culture and the religion of the Yoruba and that of the North, a matter which calls more accurate investigation. Now, on the whole, people would prefer the shrine of Sòpòná to be outside the house of the community, somewhere in the bush, although it could be a household within a village of a town. Now, would this be so because of the fierce nature of the king, or would it be because since there's already human head appointed to the community, this king at large could not brook any other rivalry, would rather have them for the community? Now, the form is the reason generally accepted by the people. So they just, they deal with it like that. So I'm gonna run that back to you again. In Yoruba land, the Nupe immigrants are the custodians of the Gunnu cult. The Gunnu cult is a fertility cult, but also they are known for being capable of starting and spreading an epidemic of smallpox. So in Yoruba land, the negative connotation of the Nupe is that these are the people from the area in which smallpox exists. Now, I'm gonna go to a Yoruba deity, Olódùmarè. You've heard Black Panther mention this several times. You've heard him say this name, Olódùmarè, right? He has the power to heal or conjure smallpox or other dread disease, makes his cult feared and respected in Yoruba land. He is an earth deity who strikes down the arrogant and the immoral alike with spears of a pestilence and fever. Informants have spoken of the danger of walking alone when the sun is hot at noon. When Olódùmarè and his followers are all dressed in scarlet, are believed to haunt the earth, and of the danger of wearing red and loud patterns for fear of the deity enraged at the appropriation of his prerogatives might harm them. Now, the British colonial authorities banned the cult in Nigeria in 1917 when Obaluaye priests were accused of deliberately spreading smallpox. Now, you just heard me say that the Gunnu are responsible for creating epidemics. This is from the Yoruba people. And then you have the British in 1917 blaming the Obaluaye cult of being progenitors of spreading smallpox. So it's the blame game that's going on right here. But this is the illustration of how closely related these people are. Now, you heard me say this word, Sòpòná, several times. Now, I just read from Olódùmarè, one source book. The last thing that I just read comes about a flash of the spirit, which is written by Robert Farris-Thompson. Now, and that's on 61. So now I'm gonna bring you another article. Oh, you're welcome. I'm gonna bring you another article talking about what? Yoruba beliefs regarding smallpox prevention and folklore. Hopefully everybody could actually see this. If not, you're gonna rock out with me. So in the Yoruba land language, smallpox is called Sòpòná. You heard me say that. All right, or Ikbono, or Alade, or Obaluaye, which is a Yoruba deity. According to Yoruba mythology, Sòpòná was born in Ile-Ife several centuries before the birth of Christ. Sòpòná was a powerful man, a warrior, a hunter, a musician, a philosopher. Don't get confused with this right here. Trust me. Don't even sweat this. Now, he waged many wars on towns and villages and captured many slaves and personal effects. His weapons were the cudgel, cutlass, arrows, and medicinal brooms. He used medicinal brooms to spread smallpox infection when battles became very severe and the cudgel and the arrows could not be effectively used. He was so powerful that he was banished into the bush. Now, he traveled from Ile-Ife to Nupe. So now we get a reverse look at this. They saying, nah, bruh, this thing came from y'all, but y'all saying we the custodians of this. So let me continue. In the northern region and from there southward down to Dahomey, where he became known as Zapata. He went around the whole world and captured many places. Peep game. Listen to the mythological thought process of what's going on. He traveled from Ile-Ife to Nupe in the northern region and from there southward to Dahomey, where he became known as Zapata. Then he went around the world and captured many places. He then became known as Obaluaye, the king and overlord of the whole world, or what Panther would say, the king of the earth. Sòpòná is accepted and recognized by his worshipers as one of the messengers of God. The following are some of the paraphernalia of its worshipers: an arrow, the congel, the broom painted in the camwood with the cowie strung around its handles. Now, you may have seen this before in a presentation that we did on the Europa. All right, so traditional Yoruba ways for dealing with smallpox. Whistling in the sun is prohibited during an epidemic because it was believed that Sòpòná was the only god to whom Almighty God gave power to whistle when talking. Oil extracted from the palm kernel must not be kept or used in any household during smallpox epidemic. When there is an epidemic, incision with a needle is prohibited because the god Sòpòná uses the needle to attack his victims. Smallpox patients must not be nursed, treated, or visited by anyone who has had a sexual intercourse but has not cleaned up properly. The god of Sòpòná is believed to be traveling about in the sun, but may sometimes rest in the shade of the tree. That is why people are forbidden to take shelter in the shade of a tree on sunny days. Drumming is prohibited during the epidemic so that people may not congregate and be attacked by smallpox god, who may also come to dance. Now, I want you to think about the last one. It says here, drumming is prohibited during the epidemic so that people may not congregate. How do viruses move? They need a host. So if you have drumming, you're going to have people that congregate. You have people that congregate, then you have a virus that has a host. Now that a virus has a host, it has the ability to infect everyone involved in the drumming ceremonies. So to the Yoruba, they knew not to drum and not to do certain things so that it would not spread the smallpox god to everywhere, because the smallpox god like to dance. That's how people get infected. See, just their worldview or their play on the mythical perspective of smallpox lets you know that they had an understanding on how viruses were transmitted. Now you see the connection here where I'm actually going into. I done brought y'all all the way around using Africa as a way to avenue right on in the viruses and the way that they actually behave. But I ain't gonna take you all the way down. I'm gonna stay right on in here in the West Africa. All right, so there you have it right there, and I gave y'all access to that. So now I'm gonna come on over here, and I'm gonna go do with Cure of or Capitalism, an examination of 1960s Yoruba Sòpòná figure. I might have made that too big. Let me bag back. And this is by Kimberly Nicole Morris. This is basically a thesis, and this was submitted to the University of Florida. All right, and she dedicated it to her family. So shout out to her. Now, power in the eye of the beholder in healing ceremonies. As you can see, Gunnu, Galede, and Aleye. I shouldn't even do this. I should leave this to Ben. But you know me, I like to make a mess. Boom. Let's get to where I need to go. So here is the Yoruba deity right here for smallpox. Right here. Y'all seen this before because it's been on the Facebook page. This is your Yoruba, you know, going on, Sòpòná, right? So let me do this. Here we go. Go ahead, Kofi.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, you see right there how they had a understanding of how viruses work. So they didn't congregate because you know when you drums is a part of is an important element in the African tradition. So whatever they do, the drum was always present. So that let me know right there that they had a sense of how viruses work. So they knew better than to congregate with each other because they understood that in order for the virus to spread, it has to have a host, and it goes from one host to the next. It transmits from one person to the next. So they understood that, hey, we can't at this particular time congregate and gather together, drum and dance and do whatever we have to do, whether it's doing a ritual, whether it's working, whether it's some form of rites of passage, whether it has something to do with a festival, whether it has something to do with somebody's getting married. They understood that. See, and we don't have a sense of how viruses work. So that's why we get all this pseudo information going around, or even got us not walking around wearing masks or still congregating in big packs. You know, people still going to the club, people still going to the bars, people still having barbecues. outside, you know what I'm saying, inside the house, they having house parties. Inside the house, they're not protecting themselves because they have no sense or they have no understanding of how viruses work. So that let me know right then that they know how they understood how viruses work.
All right, so in the late 60s, the CDC employees stationed in Nigeria to eradicate smallpox collected over 50 wooden Sòpòná figures like the one that I just showed you down at the bottom. The Yoruba who adhere to the indigenous religion rarely uttered the name Sòpòná, who is the Orisha or god of smallpox. There are certainly no known anthropomorphic representations of him in the literature of Yoruba art. What were these objects used for then? Were they used in a religious ceremony, made to sell in the market? Project attempts to answer questions by providing a detailed visual analysis on the object and by placing objective and cultural and historical context. Clarifying the object's past is important both for the museum records and more broadly the scholarship of African visual culture in order to avoid falsely assigning spiritual relevance to a trade piece. To inform my understanding of Yoruba healing techniques, I began with a chapter on the classical Yoruba healing methods. Closely examine the Harns Museum Sòpòná figure in the second chapter. And I end my project with a survey of contemporary artists whose work makes reference to healing. This is important, and I'm reading this for a reason. And it's important to note that not all Yoruba adhere to the indigenous religion. Today, in the 1960s, the Sòpòná figures were collected. You have Nigerians now Christians and Muslims. When they speak to Yoruba in reference specifically, those are people who practice the indigenous traditions or what we call Isheshe. Now, she says also in the first chapter to deal with the healing practices in Nigeria, including Gelede, Gunnu, and Ayele. And so, you know, just trying to pay homage to the traditions. All right, so now we have an understanding of where this is going. So we get to the Gelede, which I really don't want to harp on. I want to continue to make this about the Sòpòná. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit. As you can see, Robert Farris is one of the sources that the sister used in this particular aspect. There's some Yoruba herbalists for certain things that, you know, you kind of go from there. So we don't want to hide that fact. But here we go. And peep this. Another Yoruba herbalist, Ajiki Asoko, was a priestess of another healing deity in Relay associated with the bird on top of the staff to Sòpòná, the Orisha of smallpox, as discussed in chapter 2, said that her staff was made of iron because of the god of iron. Ogun clears the path for all other Orisha to complete their duties, and Eshu opens the way. So several other Orishas are pivotal in the healing process. Orunmila is the oldest son of Olorun, the sky deity, and is in charge of divination. Without him, no healing, which often involves divination, would be possible. Able to read the future and understanding of the secret existence, he descended to the earth to teach humans how to be diviners. He was the Orisha who initially created a plan with Eshu's help to appease the witches. He created a congregation of leaves and offered it to the women, who in turn learned to respect him and pity him. He possessed the insight and intelligence to converse with the witches. These women possess Ashe or spirit, which is neither good nor bad, and Orunmila uses uses symbols such as the bells and leaves to translate their powers into positive energy. Eshu, a trickster god, everybody should know him. As a Yoruba in the Pantheon, not only plays a role in divination, but is also visually relevant to the Sòpòná figure that is the focus of the chapter. Now, the Orisha plays the opposite role of Orunmila, who is considered a cool god who can control fate. Eshu turns fate around and it causes a random acts. In the same way that Orunmila acts as a liaison between humans and gods, carrying messages for Olorun to the earth, Eshu carries messages from the earth to Olorun. This hot god can destroy anyone who offends him, so his devotees are careful to show him respect. It is also important to note that Nigerians do not solely rely on ceremonial medicines and also have at their disposal medicines that have been called Western medicines. That is key, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know anything about it. They have what many of you call Western medicines. Now, you hear this argument a lot in our community, how they talk about they don't want Western medicine. People don't want Western medicine. However, these herbs and all of those things that they're using are from places in the West. Long story short, the dang on Yoruba are using Western medicine. All right, so to slide on down past the Gelede and the Egungun ceremonies and things of that nature, I'm gonna get right into where I need to be. Yes, y'all do have this as it's in the description of the video. If you don't know about the Gelede, there's a presentation on this channel that was done maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3. Dang, I think it's been that long. That we get into the Gelede, and you learn a lot about that, some specifics too. Boy, okay, Ayele. Do I want to talk about that? Medicinal powers can be manifested? No, I don't want to talk about that. I want to go directly to where I need to get, because Sòpòná is the reason we are even on this. My drag slow. I'm sorry, y'all. That's Gelede right there. Told you. Boom. Can't play my again. The Gelede. Y'all don't want this work. Again. Kofi don't want this work with me. Because he know. Now, let's go to chapter 3, an examination of the Yoruba Sòpòná figure. Now, over 50 members of the CDC and multiple researchers present in Nigeria in the 1960s owned Sòpòná figures, much like the one that was collected in the Harlem Museum. The wooden figure representing the Orisha of smallpox is approximately 12 inches tall and made of dark wood that seems to be stained coal color. His body is adorned with 4 strands of cowrie shells. A monkey skull is attached to his core with cords, and cola nut is attached to each shoulder. I wish Ben was on here because he'll give you the significance of what all of that actually meant. Now, the figure holds a wooden club in each hand. From the left side of the body that hangs at the neck, containing a conglomerate of shells and feathers. Its back is covered with burlap and a strand of red, white, and green beads in a varying size and shape drapes over fabric. Now, in addition, a metal chain hangs from the back of the right side of this head and continues to the front of the body. And at the end of the chain hangs a conical metal bell that rests next to the orange gourd on a slightly raised base. An additional strand of cowrie shells adorn his neck. Now, its face bears 3 lines which are carved almost vertically into each cheek. 2 patches of rough material protrude from the front of the figure's tall, narrow headdress. Another strand of cowrie shells reach from the figure's left ear across the top of his head, addresses him down to the top of his right ear. A set of small white and tan beads wrapped loosely around the back of the figure's head. The entire figure, including the base, headdress, hands, clubs, a bark of monkey skull, is spotted with blue and white pigment. Now, Bob Boyd, he purchased the figure in 1969 in Lagos with the CDC during the global smallpox eradication campaign. In an interview, Boyd told me that the Nigerian trader brought the piece from northeast of Lagos, south of Kaduna, to sell to the Americans working with the smallpox program. According to Boyd, the same trader made regular trips to Yoruba City in the north, where he gathered items he knew were in demand and that could easily sell and return to Lagos and make his profit. The members of the CDC who owned the figures thought that the trader stole or provided very little monetary compensation to Sòpòná priests of the objects. They were under the impression that those relinquishing the figures did so because they so desperately needed money, because Nigeria's economy was crippled during the smallpox epidemic. Boyd also pointed out that the prolific reproduction of the marketing, they knew what people would buy. There was a huge market and reproduction of items that they know people wanted. He assured me, however, that he was careful to purchase authentic items, meaning objects previously used in a ritual. Now, by researching the figure, she hoped first to confirm its identity as Sòpòná, the original smallpox, and determine where the figure was created and by which cultural group. These initial facts were quickly elucidated by the speaking with Boyd, who became familiar with Nigeria's culture during his work for the CDC. Boyd vaccinated in every state in the country and spent over half of his time in Nigeria in small villages. Subsequently, she had hoped to discover whether Sòpòná figures like the one in Horn collection were used in any ritual activities or if they were solely created for tourists to trade and support the local economy. This is what we found in the research. Questions were raised about the authenticity, contested the subject contemporary scholarship. So in the article, Authenticity and Commoditization in Tourism, Eric Cohn criticizes the search for authentic as a concept totally based on perception of the tourist. I'm going to skip most of this stuff because it really don't matter, and I'm going to get right here. So little information exists about Sòpòná in the literature of Yoruba religion. This dearth of attention may reflect Yoruba attitudes. Yoruba people in Nigeria rarely speak his name to make sure they do not bring his attention to their home. In the following pages, we're going to find out a little bit more. So Sòpòná was introduced to Yoruba religious pantheon in the 17th century, probably from where? The Nupe and the Tapa people in the north of the country. Some people trace the deity to the Hausa people, also in the north, and ultimately to Islam. And in early Yoruba folktale, the Orisha gathered for harvesting festivals where they ate game crops in the fields and drank palm wine. They all dined, but when they rose to dance, Sòpòná stayed behind because he had a wooden leg and used the stick to walk. Soon, one of the deities noticed that Sòpòná was not participating and offended, urged the god to join the others. Sòpòná, who had consumed much palm wine during their absence, covered the wooden leg he was so ashamed of and stumbled into the crowd. When someone bumped into him, causing him to fall, his leg was exposed, and the other Orisha erupted into laughter and began to tease. Sòpòná was so offended that he beat the other Orisha on the back with his walking stick, and when they returned home, they all fell ill. Their eyes became sore, and their bodies erupted with sores. The Orisha of the smallpox had infected them with his secret disease. When Obatala, father of the gods, discovered what Sòpòná had done, he rushed to Sòpòná's house to judge him for his actions, but Sòpòná saw his coming and absconded into the forest where he was supposed to stay, though he emerges at intervals to proliferate his disease. From then on, Sòpòná was feared by the other gods and later by humans. So that's just a little small tale, but it gets into talking about the eradication program in the 1960s and how they vaccinated over 90% of the people and how they deal with people in the small area regarding smallpox. However, it is said and believed that Sòpòná's vengeance was supposed to be accepted with gratitude and even celebrated to prevent further scourge from the god. While many Nigerians did not seem to understand the physiological nature of smallpox, they did understand the communicability of the disease. The Nigerians knew that smallpox occurred more often during the dry season. They attributed this to the god dwelling in the forest during the wet seasons and coming to the towns during the dry season to prowl in the sun under the certain trees. These trees and locations were therefore avoided during that time of year. Because Sòpòná was easily offended, people often refused to use the name, like Candyman, and speak about him indirectly through the names of Omulu, or what we know him as among the Yoruba as Oboluaye, to avoid attracting his attention. Sòpòná was angered by various actions, including the burning of corn cobs and palm kernel oil, and by sweeping the house with a type of broom that is often used to represent him. He is attracted to music, dancing, whistling, but driven away by cigarette and pipe smoke. if a certain person contracted smallpox from one of these offenses, there was a possibility of recovery. However, contracting the disease as a result of offending a Sòpòná priest, priestesses, or devotee was believed to be fatal. Now, some scholarship paints a portrait of manipulative Sòpòná priests capitalizing on the fear of smallpox. Priests probably perform variolations, which is the process of infecting oneself with smallpox in a controlled manner to minimize the effects of the disease and provide subsequent immunization. Yep, you heard it here. The priest would perform an act of viralization by infecting themselves with the small little dose of smallpox. Now, for this reason, the priest appeared special because they could not get the disease that was affecting their community. They promised members of the community that for gifts and monetary compensation, they would protect their families from the disease of their patron Orisha, and that if the disease did infect them and was fatal, that they would protect their spirit in the afterlife. Because Sòpòná priests inherited the cloths of the deceased, some Europeans believed that they were not motivated to keep the members of their community alive. According to some sources, priests hung the bodies of the deceased from trees to collect the infected fluids that dripped from the smallpox scab in order to concoct lethal substances to use as punishment. Others accounts tell us that the devotees demanded protection money from families and the spread of disease to their households, so if they were unable to pay or unwilling to pay. So these stories do not account for the fact that the Yoruba understood the fatal disease. So I'm going to stop right here, and I don't want to go too much further into it, although we can. But now, let me skip that last part. I'm going to go right here. So, and then I'm going to come back to my point. What the Europeans understood as corrupt behavior by some Sòpòná priests might have reflected their misunderstanding of prejudices. A hot or a hard god, Sòpòná, was often grouped with other hot deities such as Shango Orisha of thunder, Ogun, or the Orisha of iron. Both of these Orisha elicited fear from the community in much the same manner as Sòpòná. And so I just wanted to add that in for y'all real quick. Now, I want you to think about what I said. How they behaved. I want you to think about how these priests behave, right? They had an understanding earlier on that if I infect myself with a little bit of this smallpox, I ain't got to deal with it when the outbreak happened. But I'm not going to tell everybody else what I did, so it looks like that I have the power because I knew what to do to provide some type of immunity to my body or resistance to smallpox or Sòpòná for a reason while it haunted everyone else. And if you wanted the cure, you would have to pay me for it if you wanted the protection. So under this assumption, they figured it out. This story is not only a story of the Yoruba, but it is a story of the Gunnu, in which the claim is made smallpox origins derived. Now, the reason that I gave you the historical purpose and presence of the Nupe earlier on, because I want you to think about what I said. When did the smallpox epidemic break out in the United States? When did Onesimus become prevalent to people to show them how they fought smallpox? Think about that understanding. So that understanding was not only among the Akan. That understanding, and I should have pulled something up from the Akan to show you the prevalence of how they did this. But think about, not only were the Akan familiar with the inoculation process, but I just showed you the Yoruba and I just showed you the Nupe. He said, don't say it 2 more times. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I introduced the Gunnu, a fertility cult, to you because they were familiar with smallpox, which the Yoruba were familiar with smallpox, and the Akan familiar with smallpox. And other West African people were familiar with smallpox. So when they were enslaved and brought to the New World, they already had an understanding of how to inoculate themselves based on their knowledge of dealing with epidemics. They used mythology to explain their worldview because they didn't really know how to explain it scientifically to people. So the lessons were learned in creating Sòpòná, these statues, and deifying smallpox and giving it some type of elevation among its people because it controlled the lives of the people around them, their families, and the whole nine. So it is in that understanding that the genius of vaccination origins begin in the Americas, or specifically America. So Nigeria is important. Ghana is important. Benin is important. Cameroon is important. Senegal, the Gambia is important. The numerous tribes that line up along the coast, the coast of West Africa, or what we know as West Africa, is important because it engineered one of the greatest advancements in the medical field or in the scientific field, an understanding of inoculations to help Americans, right, but prevent the spread of an infectious disease that was running rampant in the 1800s. Well, some would say the 18th, 19th century. They deified it. They understood it. These West Africans, or more specifically, and who I introduced you to, the Nupe and the Yoruba, they understood it. And from there, we have the evolution of how to fight what we can't see, or what we know as today as SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. So in closing, I just wanted to bring West Africa to y'all and mix in a little bit of science and mythology and show you how they coexisted and it was used to bring forth protection in these communities from people who knew how to do it. And once those people were enslaved, shipped out to a new world, problems began to be solved. I was asked, let me go back to it. Let me go back to what I was asked. I was asked this question earlier today. I was a little offended by it, but they weren't trying to offend, but they asked me this question. And give me a second and I'm gonna get it for y'all. All right, here we go. I was asked this question. How long have you been worshiping Africa? That's a serious question with no disrespect intended. Since I've been in the community, I've always dealt with Africa. Before the community, I dealt with Africa. I had an understanding for Africa, and I wanted the genius of Africa all over, not one specific area, but all over. Although I came into the community and learned what I could from the remits to try to use it and apply it to other places, and even South Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, Northeast and East Africa. I made it my business to know something about the continent, everything, its genius. What can I use from the genius of its Kimoyo, or its historical, or its science, or its scientific genius? Those were things that was prevalent to me. And what I found in that research is what I stand on and people appreciate me for today. So if you, hopefully I answered that question of how long, and then this, you know, and since you called it worship, I'm not offended by that. I would rather worship something that answers questions for me today. Right? That's just me. And yeah, our ancestors deified these viruses, or more specifically smallpox, and they made little figures of smallpox, and they would never utter the name because they didn't want to bring on that negative energy to the people. But they also figured out that, hey, little small portions, or little samples of this into my incision would provide me some type of protection against smallpox, and therefore I'll have that immunity against this virus. So when the disease emerges and it takes over, I can stand out there like nothing happened to me, and people will be like, "Wow, it must be magic." It was from that example where people were like, "Man, that's magic. Ooh, how did you do that? How are you protecting yourself against this?" You see what I'm saying? Like, that's where it was like, ooh, that's where some people knew the trick and other people didn't know it. So it looked kind of cool to see that these people had some type of, or what you would think is, oh, they got some type of powers. But all in all, it is what it is. Now, of course, Unc is glued to his TV because the Ravens is beating the Chiefs. The problem is Patrick Mahomes is driving down the field and they're about to score a touchdown, and Lamar ain't gonna be able to do that again. Or they might just drive it down and end the game and just kick a field goal because the Ravens ain't gonna be able to stop all of these threats. But I don't want to change the subject. I know Kofi fell out, which I figured that he would. Man, anybody got any questions, comments, concerns? Did you see my little play on why I'm introducing you to the Gunnu and Yoruba in regards to a dang on virus and how it's prevalent today? I don't know if y'all want to do that. I also have something else that I could have showed y'all, but I'm gonna keep that Riki to myself, between me and my brother, Black Panther, because they actually have a chant for it and all of that. Regarding Obalu Aye, I had to make sure I say it like Ben said. Yeah, that's right. Revere. Exactly. So I revere Africa. If you call it worship, I call it revere. Straight like that. But I wanted to come on the Masi. I wanted to use West African history, culture, traditions, or what we call Kimoyo, and mix in a little science in it, and just give it to you straight up. I don't know if it's appreciated or whatnot. You know, if it is, it's love. But I know y'all busy watching the Chiefs and the Ravens, so you know, y'all know what I'm about to do, man, and I'm gonna let y'all have y'all evening back, and I'm gonna go on and rock on out myself. Be easy.